We begin in Hawaii as red-hot lava continues to spew from the Kilauea volcano. It's now threatening a geothermal plant. CBS's Laura Podesta reports.
Molten lava from Hawaii's Kilauea volcano is now entering the property of a geothermal plant that harnesses energy from the volcano for electricity. Earlier this month, plant workers removed 50,000 gallons of a flammable liquid gas stored at the site. Now they're racing to shut down the plant's wells. If lava gets in, it could cause the uncontrolled release of hazardous gases.
There's a steam release, there's many chemicals, but primarily the critical factor would be hydrogen sulfide, a very deadly gas.
As lava overtakes houses and cars, 1,700 people have fled their homes over the last 2 weeks. John Artimovich is a holdout.
As long as the wind is blowing in the direction that it's been blowing for the last 2 weeks, except for 1 or 2 days, it's taking all the gas that way.
The lava's haze, or laze, contains hydrochloric acid and tiny glass particles, which can cause breathing problems and skin irritation. That's why officials are warning residents and tourists to stay away from this volcanic activity on the Big Island's southeast coast. Laura Podesta, CBS News, New York.
And here's a live up-close look at some of the lava doing its thing this morning. The geothermal plant they were just talking about in the story being threatened provides about 25% of the Big Island's power. Also in this morning's national headlines, a manhunt is underway for 2 accused murderers who escaped from a South Carolina jail Saturday. Tyshawn Johnson and Curtis Green broke free after an electrical shortage opened cell doors in one section of the jail. A third man who also escaped was recaptured on Sunday. President Trump met with some top law enforcement officials at the White House Monday to discuss allegations that the FBI was politically motivated during an investigation of his 2016 campaign. The Department of Justice has agreed to look into the allegations. Some members of Congress say the president is abusing his executive power. From our schools, the new superintendent for Billings School District 2 is now official. The Board of Trustees approved a 2-year contract for Greg Upham on Monday night. Upham will be paid $165,000 in his first year, with a 2% raise in the second year of the contract. He was selected after the first choice by the district declined the position. Upham comes from Helena, where he served as the assistant superintendent, and now he turns his responsibility to the community of Billings.
The welcoming has just been outstanding in Billings and greatly appreciated. And I'm excited about meeting people, learning the community, and just building relationships. That's my primary responsibility.
Upham will start his new job July 1st. The district began to revise its policies last night on what teachers can use as resources. This follows controversy earlier this spring about a class lesson that some parents felt contained pornographic material. Continuing our coverage, the American Civil Liberties Union is now examining a case along the Montana High Line that may have crossed the line. In a video that's now gone viral, a Border Patrol agent working in the Havre area tells 2 U.S. citizens he stopped them and detained them because they were speaking Spanish. Anna Suda, who was born in Texas, stopped with a friend at a Havertown pump to buy milk and eggs last week. They were speaking Spanish when a Border Patrol agent approached them and asked to see their documents. The officer said his actions were not racially motivated and let them leave after about 35 minutes. U.S. Customs and Border Protection says it's currently reviewing the incident to ensure that all appropriate policies were followed. Though, according to the ACLU of Montana, speaking Spanish is not a valid reason to stop and detain anyone. Turning to court news, a Utah judge orders a former Billings couple accused of beating and starving their toddler to stand trial for the murder. That ruling was ordered Friday in the case against 26-year-old Miller Costello and his 23-year-old wife, Brenda Emile. The self-described gypsy couple has ties to Billings, where court records show a number of offenses on their records from 2008 to 2015. Costello and Emile are accused of mistreating their 3-year-old daughter so badly, investigators said the victim looked like a Holocaust survivor. Because she had so many injuries spanning a long length of time, investigators cannot determine determine the child's exact cause of death. Following the judge's ruling, prosecutors now have 60 days to decide whether to pursue the death penalty. Meanwhile, the man accused of shooting at 2 probation and parole officers before engaging in Billings police in a standoff earlier this month denies the charges. 60-year-old Michael Jeffrey Anderson was arraigned Monday in Yellowstone County District Court on 2 counts of attempted deliberate homicide. The probation officers say Anderson welcomed them into his home on the 1600 block of 2nd Avenue North for a routine home check. But during the search, the officers say Anderson pulled out a semi-automatic handgun and started shooting. The officers returned fire as they escaped. Anderson barricaded himself inside the home for about 2 hours before police broke down the front door and found him with a bullet wound to his stomach. He's now held at the Yellowstone County Jail on $1.25 million bond. Elsewhere, the future of a proposed bathroom initiative is now in the hands of a Great Falls judge after a hearing Monday. Initiative 183 proposes people would have to use the public restroom that corresponds with the sex indicated on their original birth certificate rather than the sex they identify with. The state argued Monday that the challenge to the proposed measure is premature because the initiative has yet to qualify for a spot on the November ballot. They asked that the case be dismissed. The ACLU of Montana also claims I-183 is filled with constitutional defects that it says will infringe on the rights of transgender and non-binary Montanans. Judge John Kutzman will issue his ruling at a later date. From our roads, a new countrywide program aims to make our highways safer. Border to Border zeroes in on 4 key hours. From 4 to 8 p.m. through the Memorial Day weekend, you'll see extra troopers on the highways enforcing the law and making sure seatbelts are in use.
We're putting it out on our social media platforms. We'll have it on reader boards across the state, and we try to send a unified message across the entire United States with state, county, and local police. There's so many people traveling and so many tourists traveling through Montana specifically. Wearing the seatbelt is the single most important thing you can do to reduce your chances of being killed in a serious crash. And so it's just so important to be buckled up.
The program focuses on the 4 to 8 p.m. hours because that's when seatbelt use is at its lowest. And one last story before we take a break. One man on a challenging journey is facing a not so noticeable battle. MTM's Kaylee Collins shows us a Colorado Springs man is facing himself while taking on the Missouri River.
Come on, Ty.
Thomas Dawson is doing something not many people do in their lifetime. Kayaking the Missouri River.
Why am I on the Missouri River? That's a good question to ask. I don't really have the answer yet.
And that's because he's rewriting his story.
I'm dealing with being by myself. I guess being with myself, which can be difficult for some people, and it's difficult for me.
Dawson suffers from insomnia, making this even more challenging.
If you were to ask me if it was more physical or more mental, I'd say more mental. Trying to find that sleep again. It's a hard journey.
But it's a journey worth making.
I do want to share my story and share my difficulties and trials and successes. I think even just getting to here is a success. I've made it 7 days. I've come a large section of the river, over 200 miles of river so far.
And an opportunity to overcome those struggles.
If I finish this journey, I'm going to have to be a changed person. Inevitably. It's just too much, too big of an undertaking not to come away a different person with a change in your story.
In Ulm, Kaylee Collins, MTN News.
UVI protection.
And Dawson is wearing a Garmin, so you can track his journey. You can visit share.garmin.com/Thomas Dawson.